Good evening and welcome to another episode of Poor vs. Standard. Poor here. As always, we are not financial advisors, so any opinions within this podcast are considered entertainment purposes only, so please don't sue us. Don't do it. If you do find any value or enjoyment out of our episodes and our content, please feel free to hit a like and subscribe on the YouTube, or you can always just subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And you could also join the Patreon if you feel so moved. That's always helpful. You can find us at patreon.com/poorvstandard. All these links will be in the episode notes below. And as always, if you don't have an account yet with like a Webull or something, or the M1 Finance, there are links for those that would really help out the channel as well. So with that, let's get into it. What do you say? Happy Sunday, December 5th. Sorry I was not here last week. I did not actually record an episode. I wanted to, but I just didn't have the time. I have officially moved out of my house into temporary living situation until such a time where everything is finalized and I can move on and find a new, more permanent place of residence. But that's neither here nor there. You guys are here for the financial advice, so let's get into that. So, most recently, you'll have seen that all cryptos are dipped, roughly 20% on the week. Bitcoin under 50,000. It's at 49. Ethereum is actually kind of keeping itself above 4,000. It's at 4,150. And the big loss right now is Cardano, which I'm actually really excited about. It's at $1.36. So I'm thinking I'm going to put a lot of money in there. And then you have all the other ones. DOT is at $28. Shiba Inu, for those of you who like the Doge coins and the dog coins and the Sheebs, is at quad 0357. So it's down there pretty low. You might see a spike in that one. Honestly, the ones that fall hardest usually come back hard too. We'll see though. I'm not a big fan of the sheep coins and all these like sub penny coins. One I am a little bit interested in. It's down a little further on the Coinbase Pro. It's called Anchor, ANKR. I feel like I've passed it. Where'd it go? There it is. It's at about 10.7 cents, and I might throw some money into that as well as Cardano. I like Anchor, but feel free to do your own research. I'm not trying to shill shit coins or anything like that. I'm just trying to keep you updated as to what the things I'm interested in are, in case you want to do your own research into these things. I'm not an expert in crypto by any means, but I know that I've been in them since 2014, 2015, and Bitcoin and Ethereum are here to stay. Cardano's probably here to stay. Those are pretty much the big three that I'm concerned with. And then everything else like DOT, Sol, Sheeb, even Anchor, those are fun little lottery ticket kind of deals. Sol will probably stay around a lot, like Dash and things like that. But I don't really follow those because I know back in 2017 when shit went sideways, those were the first ones everyone took their money out of, and a lot of people got left bag holding. I know Mana was up there around $1, and then everything hit the bed. It dropped down to like pennies on the dollar, and it's back up to like that $4 range now. But I mean, that was a 3-year ordeal, and a lot of people sold out and never returned, me being one of them. So just be wary of anything in crypto. These wild 7 or 8% or 10% swings daily are nothing new to crypto. They are not, going to change anytime soon, I don't think. You will see cryptos swing much wilder than the stock market, even though realistically we've seen the stock market start to dip pretty badly over the last few weeks. I mean, the public portfolio is now down below 16,000. We were a month ago, we were up over 23,000. So yeah, you're like $8,000 in the hole at this point if you have a portfolio like this. Now, to be fair, the public portfolio that I show you guys is all these stocks that are the high flying, heavy interest, big growth stocks versus the, VTIs, the SPY, like the big ones that you hold for like 60% of your portfolio and things because they're more consistent. The Apples, the Amazons, those big companies, big corporations that aren't going to fail. They're also not going to grow as fast as these other companies. This is a growth portfolio versus just like a retirement portfolio or a portfolio where you want to hold most of your money. This is more of a fun money one for me. I feel like I may have done an injustice by not sharing that detail often enough with you, that this is more for, the risk management, risk plays, risk fun, and not for like a complete and utter portfolio. Like this is missing a lot of key components of a complete portfolio, which would be the vanguards and things like that are stationary and will give you either some dividends or something like that. I'm not a big dividend guy, honestly, because why pay out everyone when you can use that money to increase the value of the stock and throw that money back into the company and make it grow faster. So dividends aren't really my thing, but there's certain things like the full market funds and stuff that, will give you at least a certain percentage most years. And so that's why a lot of retirement accounts involve those. And S&P 500 year over year since its inception has gone up pretty well. So having money in there is also, not the worst thing. But yeah, we've been beaten down pretty hard. I mean, Avant Brands is at 20 cents. It was down at 19 cents. Clean Spark down around $14. Corsair Gaming down to $21. Planet 13 at $3.29. Probably buy more of that soon. Palantir at $18.91 is incredibly low. Holy crap. Like, these are stupid low prices, and they may go down further. Smile Direct Club at $2.71. If this gets below $2, one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to go bankrupt and I'm going to be out a boatload of money, or it's going to, skyrocket up like a coiled spring and I'm going to make lots of money. There's really no in between here at this point. But honestly, I'm pretty excited about Smile Direct Club, and if it keeps getting lower, like $2.50, and then even $2 or under, sub $2, I'll be loading some boat on that for sure. Just because at the end of the day, let's say it hits $2. For my $200, if I lose it, I lose it. But if I don't lose it, I'm going to turn that $200 into at least $1,000, because this is at least a $10 stock in my point of view from the research I've done on this company. And I gave this as one of the DD companies way back in the day when it was like $14, and I still liked it at those prices. I did the research. I went through their, quarterly reports. I went through their balance sheets, and I listened to conference calls. This company is poised to do very well. I really like them. Things don't always work out the way they should. So you have to be prepared for that, because the market can remain. The market doesn't necessarily have to do the things that you believe it should. It can win in a battle of time over you. You will be insolvent before the market corrects. These things happen. Tattooed Chef in the $15 range is a steal. And if it goes down to $12.9, you got to be kidding me with that. This is 5 years out. This is going to be a huge company. And a lot of these are stocks that Jeremy from Financial Education has talked about too. I beat him to the Smile Direct Club one, so I'm taking credit for that one. But the rest of them, he has discussed Voyager Digital, and even the Walgreens play. But these are the stocks in this portfolio. Eventually, I would like to add a couple more when we get back to decent. I would like to get this back to 25,000 before we start adding more different types of stocks. So I will also start adding the. Wow, that was really bad English. I would also start to like adding more options plays and get back into doing the options every week. It's just I've been real busy in this holiday season, so it's probably starting next year we'll get back into that and getting the options strategies and videos for learning on YouTube. It's just, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me during all of this because it has been a rough couple months, let me tell you. So, and I'm still going to try and get as much content out to you as I can, and I'm going to make up for this lack of content as best I can. But anyway, a couple news stories I wanted to go over while I have your ear. First off, apparently Elon Musk really likes to talk about his poop schedule. And yeah, I mean, this is not the only time he's done that. At least 50% of his tweets are made on the porcelain throne. And Neil deGrasse Tyson comes in and says that's more than 8,000 tweets over a 12-and-a-half-year span. And if you do the math, that means you poop twice a day. Did you really want to tell people that? And then he actually had this one where he was like splish splash, and then a tweet following that was like just dropping some friends off at the pool. So, I mean, this guy really likes to talk about deuces, which is kind of funny because he's one of the most wealthy people in the world. And he's sitting there talking about his poop schedule. Like, the guy is honestly probably one of the more down-to-earth individuals with that kind of money that you'll ever meet. Like, if you ever have the honor of meeting him, he's actually a pretty chill dude from what I've been told. So, it's just so funny to me that this guy who's worth billions of dollars is just talking about, you know, hey, it's time to take a shit. But yeah, that's just something that was kind of cute and funny that I saw, and we need some cute and funny in the financial sector because everything's been turned to shit in the last couple weeks. So this is a lot of tax harvesting and stuff, and a lot of, you know, FUD and fear from news that's come out. I mean, not last week, but the week before, when I didn't do an episode, one of the stories I was going to cover is the fact that the company Yeti, which all these people were so bullish on, like even Jim Cramer was like, this is one Chinese stock that you need to buy. It's going to be so good. It IPO'd 6 months ago, and China's already talking about how they're going to delist it. So the delisting process from the New York Stock Exchange has already started. Everyone who's currently in it is pretty much boned. They're not going to get their money back, because you don't own the actual company. You own a stand-in for the company, a stand-in for a stand-in for the company, really. And so you're basically shit out of luck if you put in Didi. And this is one of the very big reasons why I don't invest in Chinese companies, like, at all. I had Alibaba for a while, and that's tanked too. Everything is tanked. But that's another reason why, I mean, when Jack Ma was, you know, missing and his, you know, conspiracy theory time been replaced by a clone or something, yeah, I got out of that stock because you can't control what any government does, but you really have no idea what the hell the Chinese government does other than protect itself. So if one of the people in a company gets out of line with the Chinese Communist Party, they get disappeared, they get reprogram training or something, and, you know, basically told, you're towing the line real hard, so we're going to do bad things to you until you, you know, step back in line. So that's, you know, why I'm not ever going to touch another Chinese company after that Jack Ma disappearance thing. Never again. And I'm actually pretty concerned about the Taiwan semiconductors. I actually didn't look at that one. We should do that right now. Because I did sell out of my put for December, sadly. It's still at 119. So, but I mean, over the course of, yeah, it was as high as 140 back in February. I think I bought the put somewhere around here, and it's currently above that. So it's still doing okay. But yeah, I see that this could go down pretty hard. This is a weekly chart for those of you watching on YouTube. It's real tough to say. It does seem to go with the market a little bit, so not as many people are worried about it as I am with the you know, China and their military drills saying we're gonna remerge with Taiwan. And it's very worrisome. But yeah, so Chinese stocks, little worrisome. and software companies getting hit and things like that. And then one of the other stories that came out or that had happened is we had the jobs report come out, and it was estimated by experts that we were going to increase payroll jobs by 550,000 in November, and it came in at less than half of that at 210,000 new jobs. And a lot of people are still scratching their heads like, what the hell? Why aren't people going back to work? And these are kind of misleading because a lot of people who get counted and stuff or don't get counted anymore for the unemployment number, which they've claiming it's 4% or so, they've stopped looking for work. They're not doing it. And that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to find laborers. And I mean, you've got companies and like just generic stores changing their hours. Sorry about that. Okay. Excuse me. But you've got companies that are shutting down early. They can't have staff all the days of the week, so they close on a Monday because that's like their least profitable day for some like eateries and things. And stores that used to be open 24 hours are now open, until like 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. or even 8 p.m. And it's just they can't find the workers to do the stuff they need done. And so they have to close because it's just not, probable that they're going to be able to staff that. And they don't make enough money during those times. And it's even worse in places like California. And I want to say Michigan is the other place where they have these literally organized groups of people. It is organized crime at its finest since the mafia. You have 50 to 80 people run into a store, break all the shit and take the valuables and leave as fast as they can. And it's because of all this, lax garbage that the politicians are putting in place that people are basically saying, I'm not going to work, I'm going to steal. There's nothing that they're going to do about it if I steal and it's easier. So I'm going to do that. And that's kind of where they're at with that. And so they've got to change it. They've got to change the risk reward. You've got to make it more, this is not okay. You can't steal from these places to support yourself. You have to work. And that's something that needs to be done with stricter penalties, stricter fines and things like that. If you get busted, you don't get to walk free the next day and then never return. You go to, prison because it's organized crime. Like that's how that's supposed to work. And that's why people didn't do it until recently with all these lax laws being made. Like, oh no, you got to respect, like, no, you don't respect that. That's not, everyone else is working for what they have. You're not a special butterfly. You don't deserve special treatment because you live in the land of California or New York or wherever. You should be penalized for ruining society as you are doing that. But soapbox moment over. I apologize. It just really gets me when people think that they're entitled to free shit because reasons. When I know that I'm working my ass off and you guys who are listening and ladies are, working your butts off. And how is that fair that they get to benefit from us? It's not, is the answer. So in a fair and just society, these things wouldn't happen or these people would be penalized a lot more. But I don't know. Anyway, another news story that came out is the Fed said they wanted to taper bonds by $15 billion a month as it unwinds, the pandemic era stimulus. And that's one of the reasons why you've seen the markets taking a dump, is because at first they didn't know if Jerome Powell was going to get renominated. He did. And then Janet Yellen, who's a stupid ass troll, dumb broad. Like, there are very few people who will agree with her that taxing unrealized capital gains is a good idea. And those who do are morons. And she went in front of Congress and said that she wants to tax unrealized capital gains because apparently she's senile and a moron and doesn't understand how detrimental that would be to our economy. Will it happen? I don't know, but they have been talking about it for a while. The more they talk about it, the more dumb people she signs on, because the more dumb people hear about it, and This is how movements start, is just whispers at first, and then it gets up and the movement grows, and eventually the morons outnumber the people who are sane. It is what it is. But I understand why we need to unwind all these bond purchases and things. You knew it was going to happen, and they're just kind of adding on to the fire pit that is tax loss harvesting, growth stocks just getting crushed right now. And it's, it is what it is. But you can't really, you have to do this. Interest rates do have to rise, but it's a matter of, is the economy strong enough to take it? Because if you start raising them prematurely, you will slow growth when growth starts to happen. And that's not something anyone wants. You don't want an economy like Japan in the 90s that has been stagnant since then. It's stagflation, which I'm sure you guys have heard of before from either other YouTubers or programs you've listened to, where basically the value of your money goes down and nothing's really growing. It's all just kind of staying constant. So it's a very fine tightrope act that's happening. But if you don't get rid of these policies before the next recession happens, then you don't have the same tools in your arsenal to deal with them. And it really, really hinders you, because places like Europe have like negative interest rates. Like they pay you to borrow money, and there's nothing good about that. You can't do that, because if they're paying you to borrow money, that money is worthless. Absolutely, utterly, completely worthless. They don't want it so bad they're giving it away. That's what that is. That's not good. And that's not a toolbox that you want to open. So hopefully we can do this in a nice, slow pace that doesn't hamper growth, but also allows us to rebuild that tool back into the toolbox. We'll see. So, yeah, that's basically what I had for you. And Biden signed the bill from Congress to prevent government shutdown, as they were going to hit the debt ceiling, I believe, this coming week. And so now they've increased the debt ceiling so they can pay all their bills up through February 18th, which is basically just kicking the can down the road. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't fix anything. It's just, hey, we need more money to keep the lights on. And we really want you to, make sure we can keep the lights on. So just sign the bill. Everyone passes it. Nothing really happens. We're all happy. We're not happy, because this is just a ploy to not have to deal with things. Congress needs to do its job. Congress needs to make sure that these things happen. Congress needs to pass a budget. If you or I didn't have a budget, if you or I were in debt that much, we would be screwed. We would be in jail for, I know that debtor jail is not a thing that's legal in the US. However, they do it all the time. The IRS arrests people all the time for all this stupid shit that they shouldn't be able to do. I personally believe that we should abolish the IRS and do a flat tax, but I'm, considered crazy and a lunatic. But that's just me. The IRS was formed, I want to say in the 50s or so. Basically is like another arm of government to enforce tax law. And the tax law has gotten so damn convoluted. And there's so many, since the 1950s, there have been so many taxes added. It's insane. Go look at the amount of taxes that we have versus the amount of taxes we had during the 1950s and 60s, and you'll multiple pages of it, and you'll probably shit your pants at wow, I can't believe that we're that fucked up. This needs to go in reverse. We need to get rid of some of these financing tools for the government, because every time they do one of these taxes and they say it's temporary, it's always permanent. Income tax was a World War II tax that was supposed to be temporary. It is permanent. I have not lived a day in my life, and I'm guaranteeing you have not lived a day in your life where you have not had to pay income tax because they have made it a permanent tax. There's so many taxes like that. They always claim that they're going to be, a temporary stopgap, but they always just keep them on the books all the time, every time. And so we need to start peeling back all of those taxes. The government needs to spend less money. The government needs to not be in everything. Every time the government gets involved in a project, it always costs more than if a private business does it. That's why I took umbrage when Bernie Sanders said that the government should be in charge of space travel because that's the government's job, like with NASA and things. And he's basically saying that, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk can suck farts. And Bernie has never worked a day in his life outside of Congress. Not one. He hasn't ever held a real job other than being part of government. Every dollar he has that pays for his 4 or 5 different properties, expensive multi-million-dollar properties, are all taxpayer funded. They are either from lobbyist money or from your tax dollars paying him. That's messed up. And he's telling people how to spend money. He's telling people how money works. He has no frickin' clue how money works. He is basically a college kid 80 years removed. He has no idea how the economy works. Real people who've had jobs in the middle class understand that you're going to get taxed almost 50% of your damn money out of the gate. Every dollar you pay, every dollar you make at work, 50% of that's gone to taxes, Social Security, whatever, all these things. That sucks. You have to work 20 hours to pay your taxes. What the hell? On a 40-hour work week, 20 hours of your labor are going to taxes to the government? No, that's socialism. That's awful. No one wants that. You want to keep as much of your money as possible. And so for someone like Bernie Sanders to tell private business that they don't have a dog in the fight as far as like space travel and stuff, that's a moronic take. And I'm going to tell you why. 2 main reasons. Private businesses are running businesses. They have a finite amount of capital, unlike the U.S. government, apparently, because they just money printer go burr. So they're going to try and do things on a budget. They're going to make that budget, and they're going to try and reduce that budget as best they can. They want to pay as little as possible in order to get these things done. The other reason is because of competition. Bezos, Musk, there's another one in there. They all want to do the space travel stuff, satellites out there, these kinds of things. And they want to do it better than the other guy. So that requires them to innovate all the time to make sure that anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. And it keeps going back and forth. We're going to innovate and outpace you here. Oh yeah, well, we've got this in the works. So we're going to do this better. And then we're going to patent that. And back and forth. And that's how you get better products, higher quality products, cheaper prices. So that your average Joe, not just, William Shatner is paying, $250,000 to go out into space. But your average Joe eventually will be able to go out into space for, cost of bus fare or something. Maybe $100. Who knows? That's a ways off. But that's how private business competition works. When the government takes over an industry and there's no competition, then bad things happen. Innovation falls off because what's the point? The government's paying the bill. So we'll just charge them whatever the hell we want to charge them. With no competition, you don't have anyone trying to work in that industry to innovate. You don't have anyone in that industry trying to reduce prices. You have the government. We have the money printer. We're going to pay whatever we need to pay to make this happen. Socialized healthcare is a terrible idea because as soon as you do that, you lose innovation. So all these life-saving drugs that come out of the U.S. and nowhere else, like your coronavirus vaccines that were super fast and very, very effective originally, they reduced the mortality rate, maybe not the spread rate, but the mortality rate was reduced substantially by these vaccines. You kiss your ass goodbye with those because the government doesn't have the people, the know-how, or the backing to do those things. They have to hire all those things out. That's why they gave money to private companies to do it, because they have pipelines in works in order to do those kinds of things at a faster rate. As soon as the government starts setting up things to try and take over healthcare, and you have one option for your health insurance, that one option really, really hampers you because that's all you have, and you have to pay, and it's going to be based on equity, equity is a stupid word that's been tainted and ripped apart and screwed over by all these special interest groups. It doesn't mean what it's supposed to. It's a buzzword for people to make themselves feel better about everyone being equal, but it's really not that at all. And you lose so much when the government takes over. I mean, look at roads and the potholes. Every year they continuous construction, because why? Because the government decided that they were going to make the DOT, Department of Transportation, and they were going to hire out contractors to do this work at the lowest bid price. And that's basically what they're getting, is shitty quality work for shitty quality pay, because they took over, and that's it. You have to go through the government, whether it be the state government or the federal government, depending on where you're at, to do the work. And so they're going to go with the lowest bidder, even though they're not the best person for the job, and they're going to do shitty work. And so you get potholes every year, and you get construction every summer. It's awful. Whereas the Autobahn in Germany, that is over 2 feet thick of asphalt, and they never have to do road work on it. You're lucky if the roads you're driving on right now are 6 inches deep. They're usually about 3 to 5 inches, maybe, if you're lucky. And they continuously, because of how weather works with heating and cooling, are breaking apart and getting potholes and cracks in them. Whereas if it was much thicker and more stable, you wouldn't have these issues. You wouldn't have to do as much work. Yes, it would cost more upfront. However, after that upfront cost, it would not be nearly as much as it is to maintain them. You would save so much money after the first 2 years, it would pay for itself. But they're not going to do that, because the government is full of idiots. And anyone who tells you otherwise is an idiot. I'm sorry, I get very invested in, the reasons why government should be less, not more. And it does tie into hurting your wallet and the inflation that they force on you by just printing money whenever the hell they want to, because they're going to hit their debt limit. Your government's broken. The way they do things is broken, and they're not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for the conservation of power, and that's what they're doing. And the sooner that more people realize that, the sooner that problem can get corrected. Hopefully it gets corrected. Will it? I don't know. But that's what I got for you for news. But hopefully we can get back on track. Inflation will stop or die down, and we can rebuild our tool belt next year, maybe in mid-January to mid-March. You should see a lot of these stocks go back up, depending on what happens. A lot of people worried about the Omicron variant. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a background in medicine and medical devices, that kind of thing, virology. And I can tell you right now, more often than not, the story with viruses is they want to reproduce all the time. They want to reproduce as much as they can, as often as they can. That's what they do. That's what their DNA, RNA, everything is instructed to do. Multiply, divide, conquer. If they kill their host, they have to stop multiplying and dividing, because they are inside a dead organism and they can no longer survive because they are not having their nutritional needs met. They can no longer do the things that require a live body to be there because they've killed their host. So naturally, they evolve and adapt so that they can prolong the life of their host in order to procreate longer. So they become less lethal over time. And this is known throughout the medical community. This is a known thing that happens in viruses, is that they reduce their lethality generation to generation because they want to keep their hosts alive so they can continue to procreate and reproduce. That's what they do. So the Omicron variant, from all the reports and things I've read, you're seeing a widely reduced mortality rate and symptom rate. People are getting the sniffles. They're calling it like a minor cold with the Omicron variant because it's not as lethal, because they want to reproduce and procreate more. Take that for what you will. I don't wish death on anyone. I hope everyone, choose your vaccination status. Do what you got to do for your best interest, your health interests, your care, your family. If you don't get vaccinated, I have no issue with you. If you are vaccinated, good for you. You're making a health decision for you. Either way, I don't care. That's your choice as a free American. I'm vaccinated because I've looked into it. I know pharmaceuticals are kind of my thing, a little bit at least. They were. I have since changed careers, but I trust the vaccine. I trust the science behind these things. I don't want anyone to be shamed because of a medical decision. That seems real dumb, real stupid. We don't shame fat people for being fat because they ate too many cheeseburgers. We don't shame, pick a disease. The only one that people probably feel shame for is lung cancer, because everyone believes it's their fault they got lung cancer from smoking. But you don't shame people who get cancer. You don't shame people for getting sick. That's just not that's not what we do. So all these people who are shaming you because they say that it's your fault you didn't get vaccinated and that's why we're still dealing with this, it's not your fault at all. And people like that, I don't understand what goes on in their minds, where they're like, we need to mandate everything. And it's just like, no, just leave it be. It's not hurting you. If you're vaccinated and the vaccine works, it's not hurting you. It's not. I can tell you that. I promise. So live and let live. That's how that's supposed to go. Your rights end where someone else's begin. So you don't have the right to tell someone to get vaccinated. You have the right to say, hey, I think you should get vaccinated. You don't have the right to tell them that they need to. Absolutely not. Same way they don't have the right to tell you not to. They have the right to tell you you shouldn't, but they also don't have the right to stop you from getting vaccinated. Both ways. That's how that works. So, again, I apologize. I keep getting off on these tangents and rants, but for those of you that are still listening, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it was a rough week in the markets. Hopefully we start to, you may see more despair in the markets this week for more tax harvesting. I don't know. It could be. You might see a little bit of a gain. I don't know. But next month, after the tax harvesting and the 30 days from people selling off, you should start to see a little bit of a recovery, hopefully. So we'll see what that leads to. With that, thank you for listening. This has been Poor. And as always, trade well, be safe, and good night.